SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure Monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com.
Are you sure?
I am wholly positive. However,
He
after
questions you a
shooting-
lot.
I do that.
Yeah, well, it's appropriate
It's
in
part of the mad
leadership.
scientist.
It is, but it's also appropriate in leadership that you are surrounded by people who you accept their line of questioning, that you appreciate and respect them holding you accountable.
So we're on a different podcast now. We're not on the American Hustle anymore.
Are you
Just so you
sure?
know, we're on I Speak
Are you
Jeep.
sure, Jeff?
That's a little teaser for folks who want to get a little inspired when it comes to personal improvement and entrepreneurship and that SFJ
I think you
4x4
just ignore
difference.
stuff. You know
That,
something doesn't exist. Jeff.
So I'm just gonna jump right to the comments because Justin was in there saying good morning before we were even on camera.
Good
He
morning,
was on
Justin.
top of that.
That's right.
My wife
he
is
gets first.
my wife's in the comments recognizing that I stole a cart for a laptop desk.
The
We're-
ugliest cart, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about how fired I up at this
gonna-
garbage cart that we have.
We're
in
gonna
here.
talk about that in a minute.
Cobbing up Grandma's living room podcast.
Joe is saying good morning, kiddies from boring old Burton.
Good morning, Joe. Joe just got back from a cross country foyer. Is it foyer? I butchered that word. What?
how
All
about
right,
this
Scott.
trip?
So, anyways,
Trip.
and then Justin saying we need to talk about Diesel Comanche.
He has a diesel Comanche.
As-
He's building
as you
it.
should.
Oh my God, beautiful machine. Or potentially a beautiful machine.
Maybe
you know
we
what I
should
mean?
do introductions now.
Well, we should. We
you
should.
sure?
And we should introduce the American Hustle. And just because Scott was like, "Are you sure?" You know, like question me. 'Cause the challenge I have is I open either one pretty similarly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I got to be honest with you. I'm impressed with myself of not cobbing them up because I'm like,
And there it is.
what am I
Next
going
week
to
is
say?
done.
What
Yep.
am I going to say? You know, this time around. Yeah. And am I going to do it on air? You know.
I'm just starting to question if Scott's sure of something or not sure of something himself because of the fact that he keeps asking everybody
Listen,
else.
it's 2023. There
Yeah,
are no
you-
rules.
You don't have to be sure.
I don't care. I don't care anymore. There are no rules. It is 2023.
And just when you think you're sure, then reality hits you.
Then something else changes. So
Isn't that the truth?
I have
Holy cow.
I have kind of my own like personal like this I know for fact is happening, but other than that, like
Yeah.
the gloves are off, man.
It's fine.
We're just bare knuckle street fighting every day at this point.
Pretty
So,
much.
And then Brad said, "Good morning, fellas."
well, good morning, Brad. I think Joe Brilla says expedition.
Well,
which-
trip,
Well, I said trip
expedition.
first.
He keeps adding to it, making
Yes.
it more elaborate.
As he should.
I see.
Yes.
Well, yes,
As he
It
always
was-
does.
It was fantastic. It was a fantastic. And if you don't know Joe and Linda, dedicated trail guides for JJ USA, and we appreciate them, you know, on the podcast and as customers and individuals. Also, he was on our YouTube channel and video doing a fantastic
Exorcism.
blessing of his Jeep, and it still came back to bite us on his last trip. You'll want to follow him. He's a great photographer, and just a good storyteller on their trips across the country. So definitely,
There it is.
recommend that.
Epic Voyage of Discovery.
That's
Epic
that's
voyage of
it-
discovery.
See,
That's
more
the
elaborate
best
every
one, yeah.
time.
Perfect. So, my name is Neil with SFJ4x4.com, and I am joined in studio, as usual, with these two fine
Don't sound
gentlemen.
so excited as usual.
He hasn't got enough coffee.
yeah, yeah. No, it was a banger of a weekend, you know. With you, sir.
I am mad scientist Scott Brown, I think. Sander of the Leaf Springs.
Sander of the Leaf Springs. He got his. Well, he's He's extra snarky, and if you didn't know, folks, and you're joining in, that is his snark because
Oh,
his
he
locker
is-
got moved over the weekend.
It did. And then they asked, "What locker are you going to use now?"
I knew exactly. No,
The
I
one
not
that has
they,
my name on it.
Not they. I didn't ask. I knew.
We
when
tried
they
to give
moved
we
it.
tried to give you the semblance of choice
I
by
chose that like 12 years ago.
I know, but
I chose
because
that
because we
12 years.
relocated your locker and it's a little harder to access,
Yeah.
we wanted to have a choice for you to access a more
So what
A
let's break
closer
it
one.
down. So we did some change, and then we're going to go all in change. And Scott doesn't like change.
He doesn't like change at
Yeah,
all.
at all. So I'm going to be like, well, then I'm going to go with what I know
Yeah.
in this new change.
So it's important to know, folks, that our locker unit is like this. It's a six unit
It's a roving
locker,
locker unit
and
this year.
yeah, it
moved
has moved.
Those times.
moved
Don't challenge me. I'll find a new home for it.
and at this point in time, realistically, Scott and I are the only people who use the locker.
We
Um,
were the only two people that used
were
the
the
Let's
only
be
people.
realistic. Scott was the only one that used the locker.
No,
It was a
just-
storage facility
it,
for you.
It looked like Neil's locker at school was. I can only imagine.
Oh, jeez.
There's truth in that.
I
There's
knew
truth.
there was truth.
You're
in
gonna
that.
want to watch
There
the
was
YouTube
only,
video
like,
in the near
Yeah,
in the coming
I
up
won't even say
because
what was in there.
they forced me to empty it out. Greg grabbed a trash bag and they yelled at me and made me throw stuff away that I hadn't even uncovered in years at the bottom of
Yes.
that locker. So it did get relocated to a potentially more efficient spot.
I am okay where it went. It makes sense after I got over the initial shock.
The initial I hate change.
Yes,
He had to come in and yell at me for a minute, and then he was okay.
that's all true. Felt much better afterwards.
So, anyways, your name is on the locker. You have maintained it, even though it would be more efficient for
His
you to
name
use the
isn't
outer-
on. It's just Mad Scientist.
That's
yeah.
that is his
That's
name.
before
is that
it was
not-
cool.
I know.
It was before it was cool. Now it's cool. All right, and our producer, the Italian Stallion,
Jeff Shermani.
Yes, we appreciate that. And any technical production notes that you need to share with us?
No. I'm just glad that this is such a great live episode.
Versus the start of the American Hustle, where we were muted for the first 4 minutes.
Well, that mute
And-
button's rough.
We got through the whole intro. We started talking, and I said, you know what? We're muted. We got to start over.
Yeah, I was not
It
thrilled.
was such a great intro.
It was a
too.
great intro.
Yeah.
We really did
Neil
well.
may have had trouble with that mute button once.
I had had trouble with the mute button, and now Jeffrey has joined my ranks
Yes.
in production value. So
No. The difference was I went, hey, we're muted. There, we're unmuted.
We're-
Unlike Neil,
We
hey,
had-
I think we're like maybe
On and off.
there.
all right, let's talk about the garbage stand that you have in our
stainless.
podcast studio here in front of Grandma's couch.
So this was recovered when I moved the lockers.
That's true.
There was all of our towels and rags were kept on this in the back
I've
corner.
never seen this so clean.
And so when we cleaned it off to put the lockers in its place, I went, hey, we've got a new cart. I wonder what Neil's going to claim it for.
Yeah, I'm
And-
totally.
And then I jokingly said, Scott, you should try to claim this as a flat surface before Neil can.
I
And so I beat you both, and I just claimed it for a studio table until, and we're going to need listener help for this, but a listener named Felipe, I think, maybe we're
Philippe.
saying it,
Felipe
Felipe, I don't
reached
know.
out to us on Facebook.
we
page
apologize
manager.
if we're saying it wrong.
And he has 3 of the exact type of TV trays that we need for
Now,
the studio.
Here's the thing, folks. If you're listening to us in your ear holes, all 3 of you, for the first time, and we do appreciate you prioritizing this podcast, which is a lifestyle podcast about the Jeep life, right? So I speak Jeep. It blends technical and, kind of fun aspects of our automotive experience. And a little greater insight to SFJ 4x4 in the process. If you are listening to us, you may or may not understand that you can watch us live every Monday at 10:19 a.m. on the Book of Faces on our Facebook page, SFJ 4x4 Simpson Family Jeeps. If you were to do that, you would see this really cool little podcast studio that we've set up. where we are sitting on a reclaimed vintage bench seat out of a Cherokee Chief. And
We apologize
quite
if you're looking for this seat somewhere.
you are not getting it back. And legitimately my grandmother's couch, which
Yes.
has actually got a huge backstory on it and the significance
Which
there.
you should go back and find because we talked about that.
You should.
Yes.
With that said, Jeffrey has been working off of his production computer, has been working off of his lap for about 2 or 3 months now,
Yes.
heating up his lap and, whatever in the process. And so our recommendation and the last couple shows, and we certainly came to fruition last show, was that we get a appropriate matching TV tray stand.
Yes.
Um,
Embrace
to-
the vintage.
to embrace this this kind of interesting space where we've got automotive art and banners and
Yes.
explanation. And thank you for those people who reached out and sent us listings on Facebook Marketplace
and it was
Craigslist.
like instantly.
Oh,
we
it
got
was
off the
fantastic.
podcast and we had stuff to
Well,
go
certainly,
through.
Darla
yeah.
did that for us. Great customer and listener of ours, and she had that. But people were super, super supportive. Now, this is the best piece about Philippe. He has reached out to us, and he has arguably, and I don't know that he is a viewer on Facebook, if he's just a listener, he has arguably the most perfect matching, like aesthetically, like it looks the
These
like
were
that vintage-
beside this couch when they were in the
should
store.
have been beside this couch when they were in the store, or
they're
this color
exactly the right
Because
set.
remember, this couch is on its third reupholstery, just so everybody is,
Yeah.
is clear. But these TV trays could have been next to this upholstery. And Philippe has offered these, to my understanding, for free,
What-
is the
on
but
which is
there's
the
a
best kind.
condition.
we have to do an Olympic style race or relay in which we're passing of the torch, where we need listeners to meet and just continue to pass it along until it
Ooh.
gets from New Hampshire to us.
This is the challenge.
That sounds like so much fun.
So-
And the reality is, we have customers who pass through for Jeep Jamborees.
All
We
the
have
time.
all the time. We have customers who are just traveling to Vermont or Maine or whatever. But Philippe has said he is willing to pass the torch to make sure
From
that these
Jeep to
trays,
Jeep.
from Jeep to Jeep. But we need you, our listeners, our viewers, to be part of this process. To,
And we need pictures.
and oh my
Absolutely.
We have
gosh,
to show the passing,
the passing
of
of the tray.
from the back of one Jeep to the next Jeep.
We have to pass the trays. Folks, we need this TV. Jeff needs this. This is like hashtag get Jeff the tray.
Yes.
And we're going to pass this torch from New
And how-
Hampshire
How perfect that there's three of
to
them.
our studio. There
Well,
are three.
It
of
was
them.
great because his message specifically said, I have 3 of them, so one for each of you except for Savage.
Yes. Yeah, he excluded Savage.
Sorry, Savage.
Savage
Steve-
only ever just
don't-
kind of briefly comes in and out of the
I
screen.
think he would
shows
just
us.
tolerate us with a TV tray at this point anyway,
Oh,
so
he
it's
would-
okay.
He would not be happy.
No.
He
No.
would not be happy about
No.
that.
And we're the ones eating donuts and stuff on air, so we're the ones that matter.
All the good food that customers bring us.
We can
Yes.
use our TV tray.
Yes, all the fantastic coffee cakes and donuts and all those other goodies that we're
Ooh, I
so
wonder if there's
welcome.
any
We're so supported
any
by.
staples in his area, staple food items that they could send with the TV
Oh,
trays.
this is
Well, it's
just
New
getting
Hampshire.
better and better.
It is getting better and better. Excellent. So, folks, we need your help. If you're listening, please reach out to us. We have a text-only number. We usually do the text or email or that kind of stuff at the end of the program, but I will say 440-855-2100 is our text-only number. You can reach us for a multitude of reasons on that
But
number,
this one's
and we
the
encourage
most
you.
important one.
Right
we've
now,
ever
this
done.
is
This
the
is
most
critical.
important, right? We got to have somehow we got to get these trays. There needs to be like a nice hashtag to it, and like
it needs a shirt. It has a little
pass the
picture.
tray,
Pass the tray with
pass
a picture
the
of
tray,
the tray on it.
you know, little Jeep, like a tray hanging out of a Jeep or
Yes.
something, you know. Yeah.
Savage, or you're listening.
we'll
that needs
figure
to
it-
happen.
We'll figure this out. We'll figure this out, folks, with your help only. So,
Yes.
folks, guys, what did you guys do over the weekend? Anything
Well,
special? Did you work on?
It was a busy weekend. The 36 decided to come back swinging, or at least specifically the
You found more
firewall
rust.
pad. No,
okay.
I'm
thank
ignoring
God.
it at this point. Brushing
Okay.
over that.
Okay.
That's
Sorry,
Aiden's
I'm sorry,
problem
I touched you.
in 30
That's
years.
Aiden's problem in 30 years.
Anyway, I bought this really expensive period
You worked
correct.
on Rust for 2 years
I-
straight.
A solid year of because it literally Facebook reminded me this morning that I put the motor in a year ago,
Oh,
started on rusting.
Joe
here
just
ago.
chimed in. Trey Relay.
Trey
There
Relay.
it is.
Trey Relay. Thank you, Joe.
That's what needs to be on the shirt now.
SFJ Trey Relay. Oh
Anyway.
my God.
So I'll continue on where the
great
firewall
Jeep
pad touched me.
Tray Relay. Okay, I'm sorry. The Great Jeep Tray Relay. I'm creating a Facebook page for it.
A journey of epic proportions.
It's journey of epic proportions. Bum, bum, bum.
Anyway,
I can't wait. I can't wait.
so I have this conversation all the time with our poor vintage Jeep owners that
Yes.
the quality of the part may not be what you want it to be, but the price will be very expensive. And I am continually spanked
That did not
by
go
this.
where I thought it was going to be.
By
The
this.
quality's not great, but the price is okay. That's what I was expecting.
No,
You're like,
no.
the part's
Price-
going to be garbage, and
and
you're
the
going to pay a lot of money for
Yes,
it.
that's where we're at. But you
literally-
should be thankful that it exists.
My neighbor was literally just asking me about buying a Jeep, and they're like, everything I look at, it just looks like it's rusty and cost all the money. I said, welcome to Jeep life.
Welcome to owning a Jeep. Well, we'd like to hurt ourselves
yeah.
financially and
Yes.
emotionally with these.
It's an abusive relationship.
It is. It is.
And anyway, so I paid $408 for this firewall pad. That is a lot of money
That is
for
a lot of money.
for a piece of plastic with some insulation on it.
Right?
And they were nice. They punched all the holes in it. Well, you know what wasn't consistent in 1936?
The firewall.
The hole placement.
Yeah, the whole placement on the firewall.
You would think the throttle studs would be consistent, but I guess not because
no?
over 3/4 of an inch different.
Hmm.
And I guess I was just in the I'm going to make this conform mood,
Yeah.
and I snapped off this very special round. I don't know how in the world they made it, but it goes all the way around it, and it's threaded, fine thread, of course, because it's an early Ford. And I snapped it off flush, and I've already cleaned and painted all that, and I was like, "This is how it's gonna go, huh?"
So you have an 80-year-old vehicle.
Yep.
And you decided to just force it.
I
You
did.
decided to force it.
I was not a good plan. You should not do that.
Okay.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight's 2020. So then, in the grace of 2023, I was able to pull my cell phone right out of my pocket and look on eBay, and they were $65 for that piece I just broke. And I'm like, I'm done.
I'm sorry.
And then it gets better.
Oh.
After I've gone through and I've drilled out all the holes on my firewall to make the new push pins, I paid $32 for 12. To hold this pad on, how far did they stick out the other side, guys?
Oh God. Did they stick
Quarter
out
inch.
Too far? Or
I would have been happy with a
I
quarter
was gonna
inch.
say they're
Oh.
an inch. They're a solid inch
They're
out
a
the other
solid
side.
inch
Yes.
out the other side.
God. Oh God.
And I ruined 2. I had sandbagged. I actually need 10. I had bought 12 because I'm like, something's going to go wrong.
Yes.
You know what doesn't work? Putting them in with a hammer. You dent things, they bend. You have to then drill the hole out.
What did you do this
I
weekend?
was.
Were you?
It was very frustrating.
It sounds
today.
like he caused more damage to the
Yeah.
car than he did
That's what I'm thinking.
repairing it.
So any which way, I did get them installed, and then I walked around and I like, why are these sticking out? Like, and they're not even straight. They're like all at different angles, and they're black on a white firewall. They look horrible. So I have a person I've been messaging with. They're a small business owner doing hot rod things. I'm like, look at this stuff. What do I do? And he helped me come up with a plan, which you guys will have to wait for. I'm not going to let you know what it is, other than I literally found it on in my cupboards from my dad.
Oh.
I didn't have to buy anything to make it better. I should have done this to start with.
Yep.
And
Fred continues to give.
Fred
it.
continues to give. He just let me, have my little tantrum first.
Yep. Yep.
And
Let you learn the hard way.
and I've already procured a good replacement throttle linkage for about $30, shipped to my door.
Oh, excellent.
So that it was a bit good.
There was a taketh and a giveth.
But I have to put this in perspective. I was really upset. There's lots of pouting of Scott pouting, and then I've been doing a new thing where I just go out in the nature and I'm going to express my anger in nature,
Yes.
and nature calms me down. So I went in, I ripped my socks off, I go out, stand in the grass, I feel much better, and
I love that that's his exploring of nature.
I was so hoping because I was going to recommend that
you
he
have-
go barefoot, right? I was going to say and I'm honest as a heart attack on that to say,
Yes.
oh, are you taking your socks off and going out in the stand
You
in the
need to
grass
do
and
that.
soil? You need to. I'm
Yes.
with you, right? I fully
Yes.
support
And
that
and
mumbo
past Scott,
jumbo.
I did not do that.
But the way you started it, I'm like, he's going out in the woods and going for a little hike. No, you just literally walked out your back
I'm
door
just saying, it was
barefoot.
dark.
I love the idea. I love seeing. I can
I
see
work
Scott.
I work at this car at like 10:30 at night, so I'm not going out in the woods and getting ate by
I
a
can
bear.
see Scott not getting eaten by a bear in his semi-residential neighborhood.
There was a bear down the street a year ago.
We
So I could just see Scott, and if you folks, if you're listening to us and you've never actually seen us online, I really encourage you, sfj4x4.com, check out the pictures, the videos, the so and so forth. But I could see Scott in all his glory, and he gets this kind of pouty look where he kind of like slumps a little bit, and his belly kind of just sticks forward, just a hair. And he's
Hands
got
on the hips.
hands on his hips, standing barefoot in the grass, looking into the abyss of the woods, just contemplating his life choices.
Yes.
And I can see it. I can see it.
So then
Holy-
my wife's like, "Are you feeling better? Are you done?" Yes, I am much better.
I threw my hissy fit.
I threw my hissy fit. Would you like to go look at the train wreck that was all this mess? And she said, "Sure," because
Yes.
she's a good supportive wife. And then I went ahead and rewired my bead roller in my flip flops,
Perfect.
yeah.
and it works. And that was a good win for the night.
There's your
There you
win.
go.
There's
So
your win.
I got gifted a nice little foot pedal that turns it on and off. For those that wonder, if you're cheap like me and you have a $100 bead roller and you want to make it powered and you put a garage door opener on it to make it go, which works great by the way. The electronics in that little unit that want it to go up so long and then go down so long, you put a foot pedal on that, it does not like that at all. So at
Oh.
this point, it doesn't know anything. All those electronics are in the garbage can.
Oh.
I did Scott 110 electrical stuff. Like, well, let's see what happens. I consorted with, our resident electrical expert.
right.
He was right. And now I have an old school switch for forward and reverse.
Yep.
And the foot pedal makes it go when I want it to, not when the garage door is up.
Oh, how excellent. That's awesome.
That was the win of the night after the train wreck that was,
The
Saturday afternoon.
36 continuing.
And
to-
then you're gonna love this story. Sunday, we wake up and I'm like, I'm chapped from from yesterday.
right from the
and-
butt kicking that
By the
you
butt
got.
kicking the 36 gave me, and my wife says, "Would you like to go pick pears?" Where? Well, it's in Northeast.
Oh boy.
That's the other side of Erie. Yep. Okay. Well, there's a bunch of stuff I want to do today. If we can do that, then go pick pears. I'm game.
Uh-huh.
So I unloaded the body out of my truck.
Okay.
I planted.
Well, let's
Oh, a Jeep
clarify
body.
because it is
I was
October
like-
1st.
yeah.
A Jeep body.
That's fine.
That's right. It was a Jeep body.
It's Scott. It's always automotive related. Anyway, we planted a tree,
Of course.
and then we got in the car. We drove through Erie, and went and picked on this beautiful farm with the nicest people. I hope to God there's someone's Nana and Papa. They
Uh-huh.
need to be.
Yes.
And they let us go and pick pears. The lady helped us, explained how to do it. I'd never picked a pear so nice in my life. Who knew you just lifted them up and they just go, come off the tree.
Okay.
Uh,
Interesting.
the farmer came around after we were coming up with our 2 baskets of pears and said, "Would you guys like to learn how to dig up potatoes?" And my kids are like, "Sure." So and my
Love
wife
to
and
learn
them
how to dig potatoes.
went and did that. They gave us the potatoes. They dug, didn't charge us for them.
Huh.
They gave us some. They have a very nice walnut tree. They gave us walnuts for free. And then they said, "Go walk amongst the fields, have some apples, look at the grapes, try a grape." And then we came back from that, and she's like, "Come on with me." And we didn't know what we were doing. Go over to the chicken coop. She gives us farm fresh eggs.
What were you doing? What is going on here?
And we
Like,
get all done, and we're like, "How much do we owe you?" Just the $20 for the pears. It's $10 a basket, and they were heaped. So I might have to bring you guys in pears because we have a lot of
gonna
pears
say,
at this
oh,
what are
point.
we
geez.
gonna do with all these pears?
There's so many pears, but it was the most. That was the nature I
Oh,
needed.
that was awesome.
It was awesome. The nicest people. That proves that even in 2023, the nicest people are out there, and they're excited. They love what they do.
Yeah.
They had the most beautiful view because it was up a hill, and you looked towards the lake, and there was a nice row of trees. It was
Yeah.
just gorgeous. And it is amazing in Erie. You know, I pick on Neil all the time. He picks on, out Geneva way.
Right, going west.
He has no idea where anything is. I'm that way in Pennsylvania. It is amazing how you can go from like very suburbia, way more suburbia than us,
Sure.
to farm like that.
Yeah, in
Instantly.
instant.
But it was gorgeous. Highly recommended. We're going to try to do it again next year. Nicest people ever.
That's so cool.
It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Good for you and the family and those people for
Yes.
obviously
it was
making a
worth
big difference.
an hour drive to pick pears.
Yeah, totally. I get it. It's for the
The kids were like,
experience.
"Are we there yet?
Oh my gosh.
We got 5 more minutes."
Right? I'm here for that. I'm here for that. We are going to have to talk about towing vehicles here sooner than later. Jeffrey,
Yes.
anything going on in your world?
Saturday I was mowing the backyard and
Destroyed your fence.
instead of so I am not one to rake leaves. I just mow them over.
Yes.
And I
And
was
anything in the leaves.
apparently anything in the leaves. I was going through and there was a yard timber that had gotten knocked out away from the fence,
Yeah.
and the deck caught it and just kind of gently shoved it into the
Yeah.
fence and
That's why we drive deers.
knocked
Can keep on ticking.
it knocked a couple fence panels loose. I was like, no biggie, I'll fix it.
Couple fence panels.
And so I went to go fix it, and I realized that it was on the side of the fence that was really not accessible because there's a chain link fence on the other side of
Okay.
it.
Of
and there's
course. Yep.
overgrowth. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that.
Right.
Well, that was a mistake because about 3 o'clock in the morning that night, one of our dogs decided to go wander out that area
no.
and found a skunk
Oh God.
and promptly brought it right back
So
into the house.
Let me clarify. Did the skunk come into the yard through the fence?
No,
or did
no.
the dog go through the fence to the skunk?
We found the dog on camera outside of our house wandering, roaming, and then I found dig marks where after she must have been sprayed, she tried to get back in through multiple points.
Oh no. Oh no.
So I thought maybe she learned her lesson. Literally later that afternoon,
She's back out.
I'm getting ready to go out and repair the fence, and she's out wandering in my neighbor's yard again. And he's like, "Hey, your dog's over here." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Jeff, the zoo that you own, man,
So-
is fantastic.
Well, so it gets better. I fixed the fence. Everything's great. We're gonna head out to Edinburgh and let the kids play out at the ponds for
The
a little
ponds
bit.
and whatnot. Yeah.
And as we're going to do this, one of our other dogs decides to randomly start like prancing and doing weird things, and he looked like a horse when they prance and dance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is he doing? And then we realize he's drooling, and then we
Oh,
realize
no.
he's shaking. I'm like, oh crap! And he just toppled right over on his side. He was having a full seizure, so we had to deal with that.
Wow.
So then we end up we end up taking 2 vehicles because now she wants to take him with to Edinburgh because she doesn't want to leave
She
him
doesn't
alone.
want to
Right.
leave him alone now.
Now
Yeah.
she doesn't want to leave him alone. So she loads him up in her car. I have the dog Roxy that we always take out to the ponds with us in the Jeep with me. So we went out there, and I'm like, you know what? You guys go out on the pond. I'm gonna build a fire and just have a nice relaxing time and just sit by the fire. So I'm like, you know what? We did the one match challenge. I'm just gonna I'll do a video and send it off to you guys
Nice.
to torture
Right.
to torture Scott specifically.
I didn't see a video, so it must not have went well.
It did.
I was gonna say I didn't actually see anything, so I feel like
The book of matches that I found in our camper.
Don't work.
oh, it was the book of matches.
No,
Scott, yeah.
no. So the first match lit up perfect. I'm like, sweet. I put it in. I had my
And it
nice
was out.
kindling. Immediately went out. I'm like, huh. All right, well, we'll do another one.
It's like I know this works.
I strike the match, lights up, set it in the fire, goes out. Okay, that's how it's going to go. Light the third one. All the kindling goes up. I'm like, sweet. Gust of wind comes through, blows it right out immediately. I'm like, all right. There was probably 15 more matches in this box of matches. Not a single one of them lit. Not a single one of them would light.
I recommend
I'm
the
like,
big,
I'm done.
long wooden ones.
You're done.
I'm done.
You're cut
They were
off.
the green choice. They were supposed to be, the green.
Oh, yeah.
Those are garbage. Don't buy those. Holy cow! I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh Oh my goodness.
I feel like Scott at this moment, and I can't light a fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a
yeah.
while there, I said I don't know how house fires happen because I can't make a fire live to save my life.
Oh no. Oh, that's terrible. That's
Well,
terrible.
The worst part is Kristen was going to video it, so she started videoing it. I'm like, cut the video. She's like, I still got this morning. She's like, I still have the incriminating evidence. You want me to send it over? I'm like,
Please,
no,
Kristen,
no,
Kristen.
that
don't.
will go to YouTube. That will go on YouTube. I promise you.
We'll have to bleep some
Um,
things, I'm sure.
So real quick, Charles said good morning. Sorry, I missed most of the podcast. Honestly, Charles, we're still in our introduction.
Ah,
yeah,
and
Charles,
fine.
we're not doing a
updates. We
great
haven't
job
gotten
moving on to
anywhere.
towing.
Real fast, what are your updates for the weekend?
I will just share, realistically, there's a twofold. One was I attempted, you'll have to check out the latest YouTube video dropping this week where we continue to work on junk that's, that I own that's not Jeeps. But I tried to further that this weekend by working on our diesel pusher. Which is promptly stuck in my driveway because
Yeah.
I can bypass it and get it running.
And it's telling us where to go and how to get there.
Oh, without question. And you don't easily just move a 40-foot
No.
Freightliner chassis diesel pusher. Like, it's not something you
And
just
what's
flat drag
sad
out of its
is
spot.
It has a 12 valve in it, which requires no electronics.
Nothing.
And it runs beautiful.
Beautiful.
The transmission makes up for it all with
It has all the
electronics.
electronics.
And it is firmly planted.
It is firmly planted. I cannot make the transmission wake up on this RV. And so I did work on that a little bit. The other piece I'll just draw attention to had a really good outpouring of positive response. You should head over to my Facebook. You can see that had a really unique opportunity this weekend
Mhm.
where, I don't talk about it with a lot of frequency. If you know me personally, you know that I was pretty into football, the game.
Mhm.
And, and like I said, I don't
American football, not soccer.
American football.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we had an opportunity this weekend where my college team, we won our conference championship. And so it's our 20-year anniversary of winning that conference championship. And so we were recognized in a very special way this weekend under the lights, at the alma mater.
You
So
can go on and see Neil in his fly suit with everyone matching.
yeah, right. Did you like that?
Dude, I was loving the suit, and then I'm looking at the family picture of
Yes.
everybody. I'm like, Neil's the only one in a suit.
What's that? Oh, of all
Yes,
the
everyone
players.
Yeah.
else just showed up in like flip flops,
Hoodies and everything.
Yeah,
and he's in
so
a full suit.
Neil's here
You know
for
what?
professionalism.
And I'm here. And one of my
And
coach.
it looked like a football suit from the 70s with the yellow
did.
pants.
Did
And
you
the-
like that?
Oh,
Did you
I
love
loved
that?
it.
I thought he
and
was there to try to apply for announcing.
I wanted,
Right?
I wanted everybody.
100%.
I want so twofolds to be true here, right? One
That or
is
going out golfing afterwards.
Oh.
two things to be true. I want everybody to know right here and now that jacket absolutely was like a flannel pattern,
I noticed.
Yeah.
right? So it was
It's just
appropriate.
not a color you expect flannel to be.
It was a blue, right, with a kind of a nice tan and yellow kind of check in it. And the reality is, we have accomplished a lot as SFJ 4x4. We are arguably a national powerhouse of the off-road industry.
You know you've accomplished something when you get Scott's to actually go buy a fitted suit. And I have done that at this point in my life. so
Correct, right?
That's something I never thought
and
I'd have happen.
you've done that in your life and as part of this business and as a personal social development piece and realistically it is valuable to me to present myself as the owner that way in the world, and those guys know that this is our pursuit and this is what we've accomplished, and and fortunately we are in that position. And so I had my coach who's healthy and kind of strong and virile, and he was like, he was like, I expected nothing less from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I wanted to present professionally and put together, and we're here to take this seriously. I still think there's a lot of things in life that are really valuable to take seriously,
Yes.
and I have fun with stuff. Understand that we've accomplished what we've accomplished, and I think that there's a lot of people who have accomplished less who are way more serious. I know what we've done. I know what I've done and I've been part of. And so therefore that's why I want to represent myself well, but I don't have to, I don't have to shout it from the rooftops necessarily. I believe firmly in the speak softly, carry a big stick. And, so it was nice to see the outpouring of support from people. and obviously have that recognition.
Was
and
most of the
whatnot.
team there? I was trying to judge.
No. So what that was, I would say there was maybe 30 or 40 guys, and I would say that was the core group of kind of your
First and second string.
first and second string type characters. That was your standout players. It
Yeah,
was.
the core of the team.
I'm still working through it. You know what I mean? Because it was like this really it was honestly kind of an emotional piece to be like, holy cow, I feel like I'm 17, 18 years old all over again, meeting these guys for the first time,
Right.
and kind of going through that season
And-
with them.
And then you can, get together and say, hey, this is what I've accomplished in my life. Where have you gone? What have you done? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it was interesting seeing their families and their kids and what they're doing in their lives now. So, like I said, really great experience. And if you're not, you're not on my Book of Faces page, I encourage you. I'm happy to be friends with you. So jump on there and you can kind of follow along in that process. We should actually talk about towing and Jeep stuff.
Mhm.
Today is supposed to be the finality of our towing, our 3-part series around towing.
And we'll do our best.
And we'll do our best.
We like
and-
to talk about it, though.
and the issue is today we're actually supposed to be talking about how we make our Jeeps better tow vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you paid attention to last week's episode, Scott kind of told you everything.
Yeah.
Real quickly.
But I'll tell you again. It's fine.
We just
And
didn't
we're
actually talk about it.
we're
He just
gonna expand
mentioned
about
what
it.
he's done with his.
And
Yeah.
then for our hashtag not sponsored, for those of you who are listening who can't see the product displayed in the background here, we are going to be talking about a product specifically that I think is beneficial for our Jeeps specifically.
It
in
looks like
off-road.
cookies.
We do
Royal
have
Dance
grandma's,
cookies.
Grandma's cookie tin back here as well.
Yes.
No doubt. So I know that we're 30 minutes in, and all you did was get updates from us and
It's
good
fine.
stories, and I think that's the value of a lifestyle podcast. But we do want to give you some meat with your potatoes and veggies as far as the conversation today. And hopefully you have enjoyed it and we'll find the technical stuff beneficial in the process. The first time we talked, we did a little bit of our shenanigans towing.
Yep.
And kind of the why you might tow or whatever. Last week we did some technical specs of what are our vehicles rated for, in what capacity are we using them, how much of it is sandbagged BS in the process of saying this can or can't tow this.
Yep.
We recognize that our Jeeps are actually more capable. I saw a short that Savage put together and passed around on the internets where you're actually comparing your 68 C10, which was a camper special pickup truck,
Yep.
with a 5,000 pound tow rating.
Yep.
And you and I know, and it's so interesting to see that I've driven that truck. It's a very nice truck. It's very confidence inspiring, but it's nothing that like your JK.
Let's put it in perspective. When that truck was built new, it was a 327 V8. It had a heavy duty transmission. It was manual steering
Yep.
and manual brakes. It is still manual brakes. You know what's not confidence inspiring?
Right, 5,000 pounds behind.
5,000 pounds behind manual 4-drum brakes. Now I've upgraded that truck. It's got discs. on the
And how much
front.
does that truck weigh?
Oh God,
Not 5,000 pounds.
no. I honestly I do not know. I have
Yeah.
to guess at least 3,200.
Yeah, 32 to
3,250.
32
Yeah.
to,
Would be my
to
guess.
35. It would top out at 35.
It's something, one of the cool things about my home life is my wife engages me on this kind of stuff. And we were actually talking towing on our hour drive to go pick pears.
Sure.
And we were talking about me upgrading to a JT, pluses, minuses. What does that look like? And she's like, well, is it going to be significantly better than what you currently own, especially with all the upgrades you've done? And I said, well, the biggest upgrade I can see is wheelbase.
Sure.
The longer the towing vehicle, the better, more stable it feels.
Yes.
And she's like, well, does that correlate with 2 doors versus 4 doors? And I was like, actually, it should,
Mhm.
but the ratings do not reflect that to my knowledge.
Right. To my knowledge, so technically speaking, when they do ratings,
Mhm.
it is on the equipment installed
Yep.
and not on the how ideal
Yes.
is the vehicle.
Yes.
Right. And so wheelbase, arguably the longer the wheelbase, the more stable
Mhm.
that towed load is going to
Yes.
be. We could get into a whole technical conversation about gooseneck or fifth wheel hitches,
Oh yes.
which actually are you put your pivot point above or at your rear axle
Yep.
versus a bumper pull. And so that's really valuable, folks, to say that those are your two primary tow attachment locations.
Yep.
You have your bumper pull or your fifth wheel or your gooseneck attachment point.
Right.
Longer the wheelbase, and we're not even going to get into pivoting, I don't think, because that's further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you
than
gotta
we
be
need
like,
to.
you gotta be nerded out on it with.
I'm
like
super nerded out on it. I
You
am
talk about articulated vehicles.
articulating, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and the drag ratio of how
Yeah.
your trailer does
Yeah.
or doesn't track.
I don't think we
behind
need
you.
to go that far.
But you know, so the idea for me is almost like a steering stabilizer. It's a comfort piece.
Yeah.
You can actually go without it. So it has to do with towing. You can tow with a short wheelbase or you can tow with a long wheelbase.
Yes.
That doesn't actually determine the stability of the load.
But the comfort of the driver,
The comfort of the
is
driver is
definitely, like,
increased with a longer wheelbase.
if you have a two-door and you're towing, some of the crap I tow, you're going to get there and need to take a nap or,
Yep.
or rest because you're going to be fighting that vehicle. Where that I prefer not to do that. I prefer to get there safely and feeling comfort and that kind
Right.
of stuff. And that is exactly why I feel safe in the JK, because it does all those things. I don't feel like it's trying to come out underneath me or behind me any point, where the truck doesn't always feel that way.
Sure.
Now, granted, we have an empty box, which is actually probably bad
Mhm.
because the back of the truck is light other than the trailer.
Yep.
I do not have a brake controller installed on the truck yet. We need to do that. That would help because the trailer does have brakes. And I'm close. I got the right plug. I got right appropriate
When you say
hitch.
right plug, what do you mean?
The round 7-round.
Okay, and that's really valuable, folks, for what we're talking about when we are talking about accessorizing your vehicle.
Yep.
And I kind of don't care if it's even a TJ or a Comanche. And hopefully it'll eventually be Justin's little diesel Comanche.
Which
I-
they
I-
did make little bitty fifth wheels for, like,
I did
mid-sized trucks.
for those
Just saying.
mid-sized trucks. Super cool.
They're super cool.
They did. It was really
They're
cool.
really cool.
That ultimately industry standard right now, and it's so valuable to say that you could find yourself in a trailer, especially if you're into vintage trailers, that has some type of cattywampus plug.
Mhm.
Right now, industry standard is a 7-pin round,
Yep.
which is called your RV style plug.
Yep.
It has been reasonably standardized, even with its wiring layout. Right out coming out of the late 90s, early 2000s, there were
Yeah.
actually 2 different wiring patterns. At this point in time, there's just one. So if you don't have something installed on your vehicle, reasonably speaking, you can get this plug just at any box store, and it should be reasonably standardized for
And
installation.
it's important to note, most of, I'd say, JK and older, you're not going to go and buy the Jeep with that installed. The JT and the JL is a little different.
They
I have
are actually
seen
coming factory
factory
equipped
equipped like that.
with a 7-pin and a 4-pin,
Which is
four
what I
flat.
have on mine.
Correct. And that's and here's the next piece with that. I don't want to get off this connector just yet. Because for us, specifically doing it with your Jeeps, if you're listening and you're considering doing this and you're not close to us geographically and you don't want to come in for a day or two, travel to us in the area, we always do our best to recess the attachment of that plug and
Yes.
connectors up high in the bumper or in the Jeep.
Yep.
Because
Mine is actually in the bumper. So if I was to come off a shelf or a rock or anything like that, I'm going to hit the bumper, not the plug.
Right. We're objectively talking in this podcast specifically about accessorizing your Jeep for optimized towing on road, but then also our ability to use those as our Swiss Army knives or our off-road
Yeah.
toys.
And this is the crazy part. Mine is a little finger that you open the door with for the 7-round. Part of the corner of that's broke off.
Yeah.
That is, stuff gets hairy off road sometimes.
Correct. And I mean that's up high, recessed flush into your bumper
Yeah,
itself.
if it would have been under the bumper, it'd been gone.
We get a bunch of customers who will go to an RV store or your local U-Haul dealer, and they their objective is to hang it conveniently wherever they can get the installation done,
Close to the hitch. Too.
close to the hitch. And so
I've
those-
literally seen it where the wires are zip tied to the bottom of the hitch.
yes.
Yeah.
And guess what? First time you off-road that, you're snapping all those wires or grinding them
Yeah,
off.
Yeah.
you're gonna pinch them as you drop down on a rock or something,
Yep.
and that hitch, hammers down between the wires and the rock and whatnot. So that would be one of the big optimizations. Is you're going to be looking for a 7-pin RV plug, and I say you want a 7-pin RV plug. I actually like that regardless of whether you're going to be running e-brakes or not. And when I
Yes.
say e-brakes, I mean electric brakes on your trailer. I don't care if it's a single axle or a double axle.
Yep.
What I like about the 7-pin for our overlanding folks, and this concept of expensive off-road camping, is that you can still run a hot wire from your
Yeah.
Jeep back to the trailer.
Which means you can charge your batteries off the
You can
camper
charge-
or trailer or whatever it is off the main vehicle while you're driving there.
Yeah, you can have that battery, charging, or there. Or you can actually. I wouldn't necessarily recommend
You
you
have
running.
backup lights.
You can have backup lights.
Yep.
Yep.
And so the idea is that even if your trailer is
Not equipped.
well, not equipped, but it's also not like a huge heavy trailer.
Yes.
You can still have these cool creature comforts to say that I have a small garden trailer that I use for camping and I want to get to my campsite and I throw it into reverse. Now that trailer can illuminate some lights and I
Yeah.
can kind of see my space well, or I can make sure that there's a little fridge in the
Well,
trailer.
and the important part
and
is
it's
is
charging on the way.
you have adapters and you can go down to a 4-pin very easily. With a 7-round, it's very hard to go the other way.
Correct.
So in this part, and we'd love to overbuild, but this switch situation, you really should overbuild
Yes.
or have both, which
Right.
is what I did.
Yes.
But if
That's
you
what
have
I'm
a
s-
choice,
if
get
you
the
have a
7
choice,
round.
go with the 7-round because you can always adapt down pretty easily.
Yes.
That's what Scott is sharing there, and I think is so valuable.
Yep.
So some other things as far as you were in the middle of talking about your 68 and not feeling as secure or confident, though the wheelbase is nice, the actual center of gravity is lower,
Yep.
which should benefit you as well. So our Jeeps are towing off, who are on and off-road towing, you might not want to have 6 inches of lift in there.
Yeah.
You might want to be at 2.5 inches.
Yes.
And real quick, I'm just going to jump us back into the comments because we're missing a whole lot.
Okay.
Joe at one point said, towing our little camper across Kansas in 95-degree heat with a 25-mile-an-hour crosswind was not fun.
I guarantee.
And then he said, we've already assured the JK that we won't use it to pull the camper across the Rockies again. They're going to use Linda's 4xe next time.
Which is a great tow rig.
Absolutely. Your wife Amy said, good morning.
Good morning, honey.
And then Chuck is saying he needs backup lights and a camera on the back of his trailer.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
you were supposed to be selling that trailer,
That's also true.
Chuck. Just so we're on the same page,
Yes.
we've talked. You need a big pusher and a trailer so you can
Yes.
baby that Jeep across the country.
And then
That's
Justin just chimed in, said he's almost done with his YJ. It's 5.5 feet off the ground.
perfect. That would be a great tow rig.
It's
Absolutely.
fine.
You only need
Preferably no,
you only need
no
a-
sway
a-
bars. It'd be fine.
instead of a 2-inch drop, he needs a 2-foot drop on
Yeah.
the hitch.
Right. And I think that actually that since we are in the bumper area right as well, and we are talking about bumper pull campers because that's what's going to be most applicable to our Jeep community, I think a drop hitch is an important conversation to to transition.
Appropriately built drop hitch.
So that's the thing, folks, right? You can find old school, right? And,
Yeah.
and this is not usually what you're going to find off the box stores anymore.
No.
Or internets. But if you're going to that local estate sale or farmer's auction and whatnot, I mean, we used to do some cattywampus stuff.
Yeah, we can
with
make it fit.
Yeah, this is with drop hitches. So manufactured drop hitches have come a significant ways.
Yep.
When you're hooking your trailer up, that distributed load, we talked about the 60-40 rule last week, I believe. It is valuable to, when you have that trailer loaded, the 60-40, 60% of the load needs to be over your tongue of the trailer. And therefore, you need to have a drop hitch that allows you to come in reasonably level. So that trailer is sitting reasonably level when loaded 60-40. So the challenge with our Jeeps, even a lot of our Jeeps you're only 3.5 inches,
Yep.
but you've got at least a 4.5 inch drop hitch, I think, too.
And
5-inch
when I
drop
went from
hitch.
35s to 37s, that even made a difference in height, and the lift did not change. So you really need to look at the whole package, and every time you adjust something, say, we've had customers come in like, oh, I'm on 35s, but someday I want to go on the 40s. Well, now you've increased tire diameter a lot, and now
Yes.
that's going to change the height of the Jeep, maybe the way the Jeep feels, that kind of stuff. All those choices change the way it feels.
Not only that, but the trailer itself is going to dictate some of that as well.
Yes.
The height that the trailer sits at, or the tongue of the trailer.
Yeah, like when you accidentally lift kit or de-lift your trailer.
Yeah, that happens too. So honestly, out on the
And that's
market,
a direct reference. If you are a first-time
Yes, you need to go
listener,
back
that's
and
a
look that
direct
up.
reference to Jeffrey's pirate ship that he pulls around
Yes.
all over the
And
country
Scott
at this
and him
point.
building things in driveways.
Yes.
Yep.
Go back and find that.
that was good. So anyways, on the market now, you can actually buy adjustable hitches, and
You
those are
can.
really good options
So
because every trailer is going to sit slightly different.
and ultimately, as
Let's
I
spend
have
some good money
progressed,
on that.
as I have progressed, I have only started to buy adjustable hitches at this point. I was
Yeah.
exposed to adjustable hitch, so my drop hitches with my load distribution brackets on them.
And let's
were-
just be honest, though. You had a hitch collection.
I have a hitch collection.
Yes.
I am
And you just needed to add a drop adjustable to your collection, so now you have one of all of them.
now I have like one of everything. I actually am very proud of the fact. I was actually kind of jonesing the other day, and I was like, I need an 1 7/8 ball.
Yes, he
I-
messaged me. And he's like, "Do you have an 1 7/8 ball?" I was like, "Of course I do."
Right, because that's
You
not
didn't?
used anymore.
I
So
know.
I used to. Right.
And
I
your
used to.
collection? Wow.
I used
Yeah,
to.
right?
Because I've got 3 in my collection.
I-
One of them is
I don't have a trailer to use it on, and I was like, so I'm trying to pull this 40s Ford truck bed out of my dad's yard.
Yes.
Um,
Bring it over to
and-
my house. it'll be
bring it
fine.
over to Scott's house, and I thought it needed an 1 7/8 because it was so so old as far as a truck conversion or a trailer conversion, and I was like, maybe this is an opportunity to buy a new hitch, you
Yes.
know. All right, so there are these adjustable. They usually utilize 2 pins going opposite directions, or they have some type of locking mechanism on them, or hasping clamping mechanism. That is super valuable. Also, as we continue to build some of our own trailers, having an adjustable tongue is also
Yes.
something that, as trailers are being built, the first time I had this, it was actually on a pintle hitch trailer, or a pintle hitch.
Which personally,
Uh,
the adjustable
hitch.
on the trailer itself is my preferred, just because there's less movement in the hitch.
Well, and there's less movement in a hitch, and it can be set up for multiple vehicles,
Yes.
so that you can adjust appropriately on the trailer, regardless of what that drop hitch you have on the truck or the towing vehicle
Yes.
is. So that has just increased realistically within the last 10 years, honestly. That was not a technology. Prior to that, it was Bubba in his backyard welding some old steel together
Mm-hmm.
and making some cattywampus hitches. And that's why I'm saying...
Which there was a good Bubba out there somewhere
there
making
was.
some
Oh, there's-
quality
that's-
stuff.
We wouldn't be where we're at as an industry if that
But there
wasn't
was
the case.
also somebody not.
Yep. And you want to inspect your hitches and your drop hitches for any cracks or wear or excess, abuse that has happened to them. Again, the fact that it is in the back of your Jeep, sometimes we get excited if we're at a family gathering, a party, we're at the off-road park, and we just can't wait to get out there, and we drive out and the hitch is still stuck in the back of the Jeep,
Yeah.
and you come down hard on something.
Don't do that.
That could depreciate your hitch itself, and so it's valuable that you're conscientious of your equipment and inspecting it to
And that's-
ensure that it's safe.
That's another thing. It's a common thing in our vehicle when we're traveling somewhere is like, oh, look, they're towing, but they're not towing. Take it out of the...
My dad is
Vehicle.
always towing, and I've tried to talk to him about it, but he's
Yeah.
like, I want to be prepared, and I'm like,
Put it in the truck
I'm
or
kind
the
of
Jeep.
currently towing, but
I
I just
I
pulled
pick-
my camper back from Edinburgh, so at least
But
I
I
had a
pick
reason.
on you on a regular about it.
Yeah.
so
yeah,
that's
it's like
fine.
my tow mirrors being up on my Dodges. I'm always towing there.
I'll
so
judge you less for the tow meters. My shins, don't like.
Don't like the hitches.
Well, my
No.
truck sits high enough; it might be kneecaps for some
Yeah.
people. So
Take you out at the knee.
Even worse.
So there's
worse.
our bumper pull hitches, the kind of the variations of the drop and rise hitch themselves. Typically, that is actually called the hitch, and then or the hitch mount, or the ball mount.
Yep.
And then your hitch is or your hitch receiver is
Yes.
the piece
Part
that is permanently affixed to the vehicle.
And it receives the
It
part with the ball on it.
receives
And
the
there's some-
ball mount.
There's some really good ones out there on the market that attach multiple places, and then there's some other ones that I question how they have the tow rating they have.
Yes,
Absolutely. And the tow
100%.
rating is intended to be a standardized, regulated process.
Yeah.
If
you can buy different class receivers.
You can buy different classes. Typically, by most standards, we're doing class 3s by most receivers. This
I
day
didn't
and age.
even know bigger than that existed when I was a kid, and then suddenly these big, heavy-duty 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks came out with these huge. And then you had to have an adapter down to what we
adapt down
normally
to
know.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
So, it's important to note the higher quality hitches, the more expensive they are, will typically be tighter to the frame rail or the body. They may require some modification to your bumper. Certainly, if you're like a Grand Cherokee or a Cherokee owner, or maybe a Patriot owner or something like that, you may need to modify the plastic around your bumper to keep that hitch tight up in to the chassis, to the frame rails. But as we continue to talk about, not having 6 inches of lift, we might only want to have, 2.5 to 3.5 inches of lift. There is a conversation about, braking power, right? Because the idea is that you can get, that's typically the keyboard warrior response is you can use any vehicle to get the.
You can get it going, but you can't stop
You
it.
can't stop it.
Yep.
And certainly in my world where I do
or you might be
enjoy-
able to stop it a couple times, but it's eventually gonna.
Well, and that's a great conversation too for brakes that get overheated. So if we have a smaller brake assembly and you're just towing, you're within your rating, right? Your
Yes.
tow rating. Let's say whether it be 2,500 pounds or 3,500 pounds or 5,000 pounds.
Yep.
But that they are smaller brakes and you're traversing a switchback or a mountainside, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, where the Rockies. And now you're having to stop not only your Jeep, your gear, your precious cargo, but now this additional trailer pushing you down the hill. Those smaller brakes can easily become depreciated. Brakes don't have to work, right?
No.
This is the thing, folks. Like, they're there if they're maintained and whatnot. They're working at capacity, great. But fluid, it's just hydraulic fluid. It can wear out. Anything is subject to thermodynamic property, so it can overheat. The hotter and friction, the more friction that exists, the hotter that things exist.
If you ever want to see an overheating brake, watch an F1 race. When they
Yeah.
come into the corner and they slam on the brakes and the rotor turns orange
Orange immediately.
immediately. And
Right.
those are carbon.
Yeah.
And so the idea that there are actually better brake pad materials for braking.
Yes.
So when you talk about the F1 circuit and them turning orange and the fact that they are carbon, the idea that those brakes actually, ceramic brakes work better, hotter.
Yes.
So there used to be from Power Stop, they actually had a rating called the Z36 pad. That was a great tow pad, but it's what Joe and Linda should be using, and Chuck, when those folks are coming through the mountains with their trailers behind them, the hotter it gets, the more it works.
Yep.
The downside is when it's just your Jeep off-roading on the trail, it's actually not the most efficient pad for you.
Yeah.
Because those brakes are actually operating at a lower temperature rating where the friction material is not optimized. So that's the challenge with our Jeeps. There was actually called a Z27 rating with on Power Stop's layout, and there was a Z26. The Z26 was meant to be smoke and mirrors to the Z27. Z26 was your box store,
Made you feel good. You
cheap.
had power stops.
You had a Power Stop, but they were cheap.
Yeah.
Z27s were actually outfitted specifically for the braking power that we use as kind of on average. What that means is it's a higher quality semi-metallic pad. The thing about brakes, you should always have New pads on new rotors. We as
pairs.
As pairs. Industry professionals, we never ever recommend new pads on old rotors. I understand your fancy drilled and slotted rotor still has some life left in it. I get it. We sold a lot of those over the years. The reality is that the face of the pad and the face of the rotor bed to each other at arguably a microscopic level. And that pattern is unique to themselves, to each other. You don't want to be introducing, inefficiencies to the braking system.
And that's when back in the day you would turn a rotor, you would take the material off, which gives you a new surface. And now that new pad can then bed into that new surface.
Correct.
But
we don't turn rotors anymore.
You can't because there's not enough material there.
Not enough material, and the machine, the tooling, and the industry doesn't support it.
Now, to put it in perspective, my truck has a disc swap from a 71 Chevy C10. It has the original rotors on that from 71.
Yes.
That was the same design. They went all the way up into the square body trucks, all the way up to 86.
Yeah.
We have a single piston, large piston, very basic caliper. On my JK now, I have a twin piston, much larger pad, and a much larger rotor on the front of my Jeep than my truck has.
Yes.
And then I have this on
out
the
of the
rear.
box. I mean, well, with the upgrade.
With my upgrade. And I went with
upgrade.
a standard material pad because it is a dual-use vehicle. So I have good brakes in town, just driving around getting groceries, or I have good brakes on the freeway towing my trailer, or I have good brakes coming down that switchback off-road.
Right. They're not the best brake coming down that switchback, but the idea is that your Jeep
It's a Swiss Army knife.
It's the Swiss Army knife approach, right? It's optimized for what it is, and that's obviously what we're talking about. So that's the big thing on the big brake upgrades, and I don't really, care which manufacturer it is necessarily. Yeah. The idea that you're going for more pistons, more clamping pressure, and typically
more surface area,
and typically you're grabbing the rotor out at a further edge, right?
Yes.
And so the more surface area is valuable to say, that's both more friction point, but it's also more to cool down, right? Whereas if you have this smaller, tighter rotor or drum, that heats up and it stays hot, kind of longer because it's just kind of tight and compact.
And I'll bring something up just for Greg. You always should look at your wheels as well. Do you have cooling openings in the wheels that allows the air to get into the brakes and cool them down, or do you have a flat-faced wheel that you chose? That makes all the difference. If you're not towing, then it's fine. You don't have to worry about it.
I love the look of full-faced wheels. It's a vintage look that has resurfaced just within the last 5 years or so. Black Rhino has a couple beautiful versions of it. There's a lot of hot rods out there that have this beautiful big full face look to it. Honestly, if I have the opportunity to do wheels on the limo, I'm going to do something similarly, I believe. But the reality is we have to understand that
Black Rhino assaults on the limo.
I have considered it. I have considered it. We have to understand that is not the best that's not the best wheel for cooling off those brakes.
Yeah.
Because the other piece is, as off-road vehicles, you might end up doing a water crossing or a mud crossing, and now our ability to clean out debris, like physically clean out debris after we've been off-roading, is critical. Our ability to power wash, air blow and inspect. Unless you're actually removing that wheel and tire on a regular to do that.
Which you should.
And we have quite a few customers who put their Jeeps up on jack stands and power wash underneath of it and do a quick, post trip inspection. And
I am continually impressed by you and envy you.
Me too.
I don't have the time for that.
I can name those people in my head.
And their
Absolutely.
vehicles last way longer.
Yeah.
One of them is really good about doing the power wash before bringing it.
Yes.
But hey, him and Greg had a beef because of the tire shine last time he was here.
Well, he power washed it and he wanted to look fresh. You know?
Yeah.
He just used silicone-based tire shine. That's all. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. We'll live.
Yeah.
It's just like a personal assault to Greg's religion
Yeah.
when you use silicone-based tire shine.
I mean, the tires were falling out of his hands while he was trying to carry
the
them.
thing is, folks, it's sold on all the store shelves. I get it. It's a Greg thing. We love him no matter what. It's just his religion says you can't use silicone based. It's just
and this
we all
this,
have our religions,
this
folks.
customer was more than appropriate and said he would be throwing it away when he got home.
He
sent us a
great
video of it. It was
of him doing
awesome.
it. Sent us a great video of him doing it. Anywho, so braking, so we've talked about the hitches, we've talked about the rating of the hitches, the levelness of the trailer and your load, bumper pull versus that fifth wheel positioning. The center of gravity where 6 inches lift versus your 2 to 3.5 or so. Wheelbase, shorter, longer, comfort piece, and the big braking and little braking. When it comes to the actual power plant and transmission within our Jeeps, the reality is, unless you are really prepared to put the coin out for a V8 conversion, which may or may not replace your transmission, understand with JLs and JTs, we are legitimately into a transition which has broken the mold of automatic transmissions in the automotive and off-road industry, period.
I'll even extend it back. The JKs, the second version of JK, has a transmission that is way beefier than anything coming before. Chrysler got their butts chapped in the 90s by transmission failures.
Yep.
And all of the vehicles, I have changed way more Ram transmissions than I care to count, especially big diesel trucks that were purposely built to tow big things, and the transmissions were not there for the game.
Right.
They took that as like a personal vendetta after a while because they got beat up bad.
Yes.
And now I will say they probably have one of the best transmissions out there. Yes, they're electronic. Yes, they do have these complicated things. But when they work very seamless.
They work very well.
And they've added, mine's a 5-speed.
They're very robust.
The JT is an 8-speed.
Yes.
That's a game changer.
100%.
With that 8 speeds. And
Depends on your tire size. It might be a 7-speed.
Oh, yeah.
Until you re-gear.
Just
Until
shows
you
that
re-gear.
you need to do something, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Anyway. The other thing I always enjoy, and I'm just making myself feel better about towing with this low tow capacity things. Go look at a Ram base model. Most of them have RV6s in them and are in transmissions, and it's a full-size pickup truck.
Yes.
So
and with a much higher weight
much
rating.
much higher tow rating.
Yes.
Not hurt personally at all.
No, you're not. And so with that said, if you are in an older model, we talked briefly about towing with TJs, but we could get into XJs and ZJs and WJs and
we've
all
done
those
it.
kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. The big thing is with our older transmissions, we want to keep them cool.
Yes.
So make sure there's no mud.
I feel personally
I know,
called out.
personally called out. Make sure there's no mud or debris. Make sure that your transmission, your radiator is appropriate and cleaned out and working well. If your transmission cooler runs through the radiator, make sure that those fittings and lines are appropriate, that you have appropriate flow through there. And we can't recommend enough an external transmission cooler.
Yes.
Our newer model Jeeps since about, 10, 11, 12, I think
I'd
it was
say 12 on.
certainly 12 actually come stock with an external transmission
Pretty
cooler.
serious cooler. Yeah, it's the very first thing you see in the grill. It is a decent size.
It is.
And
Because honestly, our old coolers were just, our old transmission coolers, what we knew as an industry, we were using something that was pretty low profile.
Yeah.
It was maybe like 3 or 4 decks of cards, kind of stacked on end, and it was pretty
always,
small.
Always fun coming from the transmission rebuilders world. That's where I spent a lot of time in. They used to classify them in GVRW.
Right.
The bigger they are, the more GVRW, and the biggest ones were like you put them on, semi truck GVRW stuff. Which no.
And yeah, as far as the transmission coolers are concerned. So I mean, ultimately, our older vehicles, we're gonna have to do a little more to get them up to par with the newer ones they are
even
out of
then,
the box.
I would suggest just not doing the level you can do with the newer Jeeps. Sadly,
Yeah.
I personally, I like I said, called out this one time at
he's gonna
Bantam.
this one time at Bantam.
Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
I was really excited.
It was an hour late.
I was an
hour and a half.
I was working.
He was super late.
I was working my normal, 9 to 5, and trying to do this on the side. And I was very excited. I got given a camper. It was the best thing ever. until you hook it up to your Cherokee that you're pretty proud of, and you get on the freeway and you're trying to make up time, and you start noticing gauges going tick, 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 and they keep going up and they keep going up, and then you start seeing like smoke things, and you pull over and you're like talking to the Jeep like, I'm sorry, please be nice to me. And then you take secondary back roads and you're really late, and then your transmission decides that you're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
You
I
cooked
killed
your-
an AW4, folks.
Yes, you did. You cooked an AW4, which is pretty impressive.
I have seen black tar come out of those and them go, I'm fine.
Yeah, AW4, which is the automatic transmission in the Cherokees.
From 87
from
to
87 to
01.
Yep, and it was just a incredibly robust transmission.
Yeah.
It's literally the auto transmission behind Greg's LS,
LS.
built LS.
Yep.
And overseas, they're actually used in race applications
Yeah.
for Toyota.
Yep.
Awesome transmission. They're very capable, but you got to kind of keep them cool and clean
Yes.
fluid.
Heat is its enemy, and I got it very hot.
Very hot.
Yeah.
And you were very upset that day.
Yes.
Um,
And that I was so upset at it, I put a 5-speed in it.
Yes, you did. You ripped it out and put a 5-speed in, which there are some misnomers. Back in the day, many years ago, manual transmissions were actually better for towing.
Yeah.
As the operator, you could pick
Check-
your gear,
Pick a gear, hold the gear.
all of those things.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, and I'm sorry, as a frustrated truck driver, I
Yep.
can share this with you guys. This is like an intimate, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I used to be addicted to manual transmissions. That is not the case anymore.
Yeah.
That's simply a fallacy. Manual transmission technology has stopped moving forward, and automatic transmission technology has accelerated way beyond what a manual transmission will ever be.
Yep.
I understand the intimacy that is gained with a manual transmission and the off-road and on-road experiences. But the reality of the situation is that our automatic transmissions that have been built within the last 10 years are more robust than a manual transmission will ever continue to be going
And
on
I
in the
don't
future.
Care how many speeds you add to it. I'm looking at you, Bronco people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important to note that, honestly, Ram, as a manufacturer, had to detune their Cummins platform trucks if they had a manual transmission.
I
in them.
have been in the transmission world, and I can tell you what 24 valve Cummins will do to a standard shift transmission. And I thought they beat up the automatics bad.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
They'll tear them up. They'll tear up those manuals. So,
Yes.
kind of a fun piece or a challenging piece there with autos and manuals. And there's a lot of personal preference that gets into it at that point. But when it comes to actual robust technological construction, the win simply goes to the new style automatic transmissions. And that's from the big truck down to our Jeeps, honestly.
Yes.
Now, I know we talked a little bit about increasing your vehicle's capacity for towing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are going to have to carry into yet another episode so we could talk about how we can beef up your vehicle to be towed behind an RV,
Oh,
because we have a lot of customers doing that now.
Yes, that's
That's
true.
true.
That is
How
true.
to make your Jeep a trailer.
How to make your Jeep a trailer. That
There we
is
go. That's the
outstanding.
title of next week's
I think
episode.
as much as this particular, I mean, and that was the problem, and we knew that we were going to go along,
Yeah.
because there's yet even more things that I want to do. With big trucker mirrors and
Yes.
no, that's not true at all. But
I
you
do
know,
have accessory
and bug
add-on mirrors.
deflectors, and we could do
Well,
clearance lights,
That's only cool if you're
or
Jeff.
clearance lights in your bug deflector for
Oh,
your
boy,
big
I'm
truck
not
towing.
doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
We
good
found
stuff.
Jeff's line.
We found his people.
Uh,
Folks, this is a good conversation, but we want to know
Oh,
what
Joe's
else.
saying don't leave it in 4 low.
No.
Oh, we should in a towed or towing across the country. We should not forlow it. Huh?
No, not for.
Oh
I
goodness.
feel like that's a lesson somebody learned the way he has that quoted.
Yep, probably. It was certainly was years ago. I know there was a lawsuit, an attempted lawsuit, with a couple who was towing their Jeep, and they had the dealership or the RV dealership. I don't remember which one. instead of putting it in neutral, had actually shifted into 4-low.
I remember
and
that.
so they just drug this Jeep around
Yeah.
the,
It was very bad.
it was
Things
like
were
7 hours.
things
you
were
know?
welded together that shouldn't have been welded
Right, there was
together.
great pictures on the internet.
Yeah.
We want to know what kind of mods are you looking for us to kind of work through and explain? I'm sure there's more in kind of making the Jeep. We didn't even get into spring rates
Yeah.
or axles. There's
Gear
a
ratios.
low pinion 60 from Curry and Dana is a very popular mod for the Gladiators right now. Because of how the strength of the cut of the gear is for towing and weight load.
Does the 80 still exist from Dana?
The 80 is actually a bracketless 80 has actually just been re-released and is ready for consumption, but you're going to need to find a qualified shop to install brackets for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it is out, available, and ready to rock and roll. I kid you not, I saw it, the launch of it last week, and my mouth salivated at the idea of like buying a Sport JT and
Making
being
it a
like,
1-ton.
Making it a 1-ton. I thought that was.
That's the king of all brake upgrades right there.
It is. It is. A Dana 80 in the back and a 60 in the front. I thought, man, can I, if I just sell everything, can I get into a 1-ton JT, you know?
We're going to have to talk, too, about springs versus airbags because that just came up in the comments. So
Yep.
we got a lot to talk about yet on
We do.
yeah,
And
towing.
next week, maybe we'll try not to gab so much about our personal updates. Though
Yeah.
I have heard from multiple people that they do enjoy kind of being part of our shenanigans. Folks, we're not making it up. That's really just, you know.
It's the crap.
Jeff
Our lives
does
really are
just-
that crazy.
Jeff just really does have a zoo. Scott does love communing in nature with his, his mechanical upper top and his bare feet staring into the abyss. It is what it is. So we've had a great conversation with you today. Remember, you can text us at 440-855-2100. Or you can email Jeffrey direct at JEFFC@SFJ4x4. We're going to take a quick break and come back right back with a product, hashtag not sponsored, that will help you with towing.
And now it's time for our product spotlight. Hashtag not sponsored. Spotlight. Hashtag not sponsored.
So you know the biggest problem when you're towing?
What's the biggest problem?
Low tires that heat up and blow out. Not just on the Jeep, but on
Yes,
the trailer
on
itself.
the trailer. I've had some trailer tires blow
Yeah,
up.
you have.
I have.
So what are you gonna do when you're on the side of the freeway and you're like, oh, that tire's low, it's gotten hot, I see a bubble now maybe. Now what am I gonna do? I'm on the side, I don't have anything equipped. Now if you're Jeffrey, you pull out this Amazonian compressor and you melt it down, pumping up everybody in the community's tires.
It works.
It did work, and we could have made lunch on it as well.
We could have fried some eggs on there.
But if you don't want to do that, you don't want to do Jeffrey things, you might want to do this.
I don't know how I feel about that.
You could have a really slick onboard air system, right? And so we're not going to talk specifically about the compressor or tank
No.
necessarily, but Scott's reference is the idea that you have the ability with onboard air to monitor, kind of physically monitor your tires, but then address the tire pressures as needed.
Mhm.
So this is the 4-tire system from Up Down Air. I actually have a lot of personal acquaintance with this specific product.
Yeah, we've been involved from the
We
early
have
days.
been involved from the very start, the very launch of this product. I knew the inventor personally, and honestly, I credit Greg with introducing me to this product because it was one that when we were out at SEMA many years ago, he had kind of caught a glimpse of it, and he decided to dig in a little deeper on it.
Yep.
He found it online. He said, "Hey, this is going to be a
Big
thing, and
game
we need
changer.
to get ahead of this." And respectfully identifying his professionalism, I was like, "Heck yeah, let's get involved." And we got involved with the owner inventor. This product has since that original guy has sold it off to another manufacturer, but this is still the leading product for 4-tire air pressure monitoring, up or down.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that if your vehicle is a tow rig, your camper trailer or your little adventure trailer of some capacity, you're going to want to tow at a higher air pressure than what we normally put your tire
Yes.
at. So you'll know that we are the low tire pressure champions
Until I put the trailer on it.
until you put the trailer on, right? We want you to run at an air pressure appropriate to the size and rate of your vehicle and the tire itself. Now, when you put the trailer on it, you want to increase tire pressure a little bit because now we've increased load and
Just to give you an example.
the harshness of what's going through there.
On my JK with 37s, I run around most of the time between 25 and 27 PSI in the tires. Try for 26 most of the time, but yeah, things happen.
Yep.
When I'm towing my camper, I bump that up to about 32
Yep.
or so, and then I try to maintain it. Now, where the challenge falls is, we go for a trip, we take the camper, everything's loaded, we unhook the camper. Now the Jeep is our vehicle to go around and explore. Now there's still 32 pounds of air in those back tires,
Right.
which is improper now that the trailer is off.
Yes.
If you have this system, you simply hook up your whips. You can open a valve. It equalizes all the pressures, and you can let the air pressure down or up right underneath the hood.
100%. And that's the coolest thing about it. It does install under the hood.
Yep.
There's a diaphragm or a manifold, I guess not a diaphragm, a manifold that is has a pressure gauge on it, has a port for an
You're
extra chuck.
Not digging for a gauge. You have it literally installed on the vehicle.
Yep, permanently installed in the vehicle.
You just need your bag with your whips. If we install them, they're always put in very unique, special Greg areas.
Yep.
Now, real quick, we've been talking kind of vaguely about it. Did we actually say what the name of this product is?
I did it. Up down air.
Up down air.
4-tire system from Up Down Air.
Okay.
Yep.
There it is again for those
For those
Jeffries.
who maybe droned off on
Well, I
our.
know you
on what
quickly
we
said it
said
as we
or-
were going through, but I didn't know if it was
It's
like
all good, Jeff. It's all good. We're here.
We're here
Thank
for
you for calling into the production notes. Our ability to re-articulate the product.
So as we re-articulate, what's the difference between a Gen 2 and
Well, it's just the newest, bestest one. That's all.
So yeah, I was going to say it was actually it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
They've changed the size as far as the Schrader valves. They've changed the bracketry of how it mounts under the hood, the manifold itself. For the end user, for the general customer, they're not going to know any difference between the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s.
Yep.
They operate almost identically. There's a couple port differences. Logistically, actually, I was on the phone with them recently. Some of it has to just do with supply chain logistic issues.
Yeah.
A lot of this was made with in the very beginning, Scott, who was the original inventor of it, he made it with kind of like big truck, airline equipment. And we just know better. We have different products available,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But ultimately, what ends up happening is there's 4 different ports that are permanently installed one in each wheel well. So these ports are part of a line system that run up to the manifold. And then there's a Schrader valve in the wheel well with a cap on it. And then you get a whip, which has 2 quick connect push on fittings. And then, about 24 to 36 inches of line between those fittings. And that's what we refer to as a whip. You push it onto the Schrader valve in the wheel well, and then you put it onto your valve stem, push it on, ensure a nice solid connection. And then you open up the valve on the manifold, and the air will proportion appropriately to whatever you have set it to. Thus ensuring all 4 tires are at the exact same air pressure as they go down. So now as you're off-roading, if you'd like to off-road at 12 PSI or 18 PSI,
Yep.
You're not going from wheel to wheel, gauging each one. Maybe this one has 16, maybe this one has 13, maybe that one has 22 still because
Yep.
you got distracted and somebody called you over to look at, help them take their sway bar links off, whatever. You can kind of just set it, forget it, and walk away from the Jeep. It'll go down to that predetermined air pressure. And then you just, you're done. You take the whips off, you go wheeling. Now, if this system is hooked up to an onboard air source, it works in reverse. You hook up all the whips afterwards and you turn on your onboard air. It takes a couple minutes, but the tires will appropriately re-inflate. Why this is so valuable is exactly what you're saying. If you are towing your camper to an off-road park,
Yep.
anywhere in the country, you're going to want to run the Jeep at a slightly higher air pressure, and you want that air pressure to be equal, as equally proportioned as humanly possible.
Yep.
And this system allows you to do that. You unhook the trailer once you get to the campsite, you air down for the weekend, you wheel and camp and have all that good experience.
Yep.
Maybe you need to run into town. Cool. I'll go back up to 26 instead of the 32.
Yep.
And I can just set it and forget it, and it pumps it back up.
This makes your tires literally specifically the best case scenario for your specific situation.
Absolutely.
And you're self-reliant. You don't have to go buddy. You know, when we did this, I had to go and say, "Hey, Jeff, can I use your Amazonian compressor and we can fry some hot dogs?" And he, of course, like always, said, "Yes, I'm here for that." But if I wouldn't have had an ability to do that. And we were out off the beaten track. I wouldn't have had a compressor for 30 minutes.
And those
45
trails
minutes.
were extremely muddy, so it was a little more important to air down than usual.
Right. And it is honestly why, because I do not have this, is why I always say, well, I don't air down until I get stuck, because now where am I going to fill the tires back up?
Yep.
And if you're one of our listeners or you followed along, I love wheeling on the coastal beaches. You must. Anytime you're on sand, the lower the air pressure, arguably the better your vehicle's going to perform, period. In certain areas, I get this question pretty frequently, certainly on the East Coast in certain areas, there's actually lots of air compressors available at gas stations and that kind of stuff, because it's an accepted practice. But if you're in a sandy area out west or in a more remote space, even there's some sand dunes in the Great Lakes regions, ultimately you might not have the same access to an air compressor or a pump. And so what's cool is you don't have to have a full onboard air system for this up-down air to work. You can air down equilaterally, but you could also hook up to an accessory tank. So you could have just a tank with you, like
air.
a power tank or something with you with air, and you can plumb into this and air your tires up at least once, maybe twice after wheeling. So there's a lot of options here to make sure that your tires are optimized
And you
for
can
your
do
experience.
it in little segments if you have to. Obviously, if you want to go all in, get the ARB, get this, we're here for it.
Yep.
But you don't have to.
But you don't have to. But you will have a better tire and towing and off-road experience with a product like this.
And real quick, Charles did say, great show, and I do love my own ARB compressor, and that based on last week's episode, his favorite tool is the magnet that stretches out for all the stuff he dropped. That is a great tool. And then all the parks in Texas have air compressors to inflate your tires.
Yep.
And he wants us to come down to Wolf Caves.
Wolf Caves. Right? Maybe we'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with that one, but definitely always interested in finding or hearing of cool and interesting off-road experiences.
I'm curious, is this one of the ones that you can actually drive through the caves with it? Because I'd be even more interested now.
Yeah.
Very cool. Folks, we had a great experience with you. We've got a ton of work to do. We've got Jeeps to build. The phone is ringing, quite literally. and the Savage is not the best secretary. He tries, but we got to get to it. And get done all the things that make us so uniquely us. Thank you for joining us. Again, reach out, email Jeff at jeffc@sfj4x4.com or text us on our text-only number, 440-855-2100. And let us know how things are going. You want us to come to Wolf Caves? Tell us a little bit about that kind of stuff. Thank you for the tray. The great tray relay, SFJ's tray relay.
We need to make this happen.
We
people.
need your help, people. So how are we going to get this done? Let us know if you're involved or able to help, or in what capacity you are. You're passing through the area. And tune in next week when we're going to be talking about making your Jeep into a trailer, apparently.
Yep.
Maybe figuratively and literally, I suppose. I'm actually in a couple Facebook groups about that as well.
Yes.
And so
we've all done that as well.
We have. And so hopefully you will join us again for that. Until then, Jeep on.